All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, excited to be talking to an individual who's set to compete at BKFC 35, and that goes down on January the 27th. It is a flyweight fight, and we have Albert Inclan getting out there and, knuckling up and toeing the line, and should be a good fight with Devin Gibson, and really cool having Devin on the program today. How's your day going so far, Devin?
It's been pretty good. We just did a little bit of training. Was on a different show earlier. So it's a real nice media day for sure.
Yeah, you finding you're getting more of that, like the requests for the interviews and stuff like that? I mean, you got a couple good victories in the BKFC ring. Are you noticing more of the requests kind of popping up and whatnot?
There's a few. It's I've noticed, like, especially because I've been through your page, I've noticed it's kind of more the credible ones are coming through now.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're definitely going to be having those requests, you want it to be the more credible ones and everything like that. So, yeah, for sure. But you talk about, like, getting in some work training. I'm kind of wondering, like, where you were getting in that work at earlier. Like, I was seeing Bushido Boxing in London was a place you get in work at. Was that where you were working, or perhaps a different space?
We have a few spots we go to. I do most of my day-to-day stuff at Blue Water Boxing in Sarnia. Bushido is really, really big for having us down to do work with their guys sparring. We go to Get Enhanced a little bit now too, and then we do a lot of our like clinch work and I guess like half tie plum stuff up at Redemption up in Bowmanville.
Yeah, so you're kind of all over the place, eh?
Yeah. For the most part, we try to get out as much as possible, just because there's not a whole lot of competitive fighting out. I guess southwestern Ontario. So we like to get to London quite a bit because there's a lot more there.
Yeah, and such a unique sport you find yourself in, because, like, in doing my research, I noticed, like, you have the previous MMA experience, like, you fought for Prospect a few years ago, and obviously, like, a pair of, amateur boxing bouts, too, and stuff like that, so a very interesting, sport to have found yourself in. Do you feel like it's, like, the perfect amalgamation of the knowledge you have from boxing, but also, like you were talking about, getting in some clinch work a bit earlier, just, like, that MMA experience crossing over in there, too?
Yeah, so I guess like I guess if it's most of the stuff online, I've had boxing. I've had 45 amateur fights. It was a while back, so like it wasn't really the Box Rec times where they were keeping things updated.
Yeah.
But as far as like my MMA, it's funny because like when I was in it, I was doing a little bit of jiu-jitsu. I was learning a little bit. But a lot of my fights, when I was fighting MMA, I was just really going into an MMA fight and boxing them. So a lot of my, I guess, like clinch work came afterwards, like when we started talking about BKFC and we were watching some of the ways that they were controlling some of these boxers, like even like Paulie Malignaggi or some of the higher end boxers that came into the sport and just didn't transition quite as well as they would have wanted to. So we just didn't want to go down that same path. So we tried to learn a lot of ways to avoid getting drawn into a game that we didn't want to fight, and also to learn how to do some of that stuff ourselves, so we can kind of mix it up.
And it's interesting, too, because it's been a decent enough period of time since your last fight in March 2022. Is that a byproduct of just, like, a bout offer not coming your way? Did certain things not line up? Because I guess I would have thought you would have probably wanted to compete in a time, since March of 2022 there. So, like, what was the main reason for all of that taking place? Like, was there a certain reason for the holdup?
Yeah, so the reason was definitely not getting contracts sent our way, and I'm not sure as far as BKFC if that was just because of the location or what it was. My manager Kevin Smith was really pushing for fights as often as possible. It sounds like after this fight, there's quite a bit opened up that they want me to do. I did have a couple months there, like where like I was grieving a little bit. So I had a few months of that, but it was afterwards. We've just been working, trying to figure out when we can fight next. But they do have a couple names in the next few months that they're hoping to line me up with.
And I would think you'd be happy with how things have seemingly opened up more with like the BKFC flyweights. Like it seems like in the last like year, even couple years, there's been like more of a spotlight and a lot more, I guess, noticeable growth in the division there. So pretty exciting time to be a BKFC flyweight, I would think.
Yeah, it was honestly. We said it even before the tryouts that it was the perfect time to get in because they were opening up the 125-pound division. It was a little bit shallow at first, and then it started building up, and then we got John Dodson in there, and it's really opened up to make some really exciting fights for myself and set us up in line for the title.
And I'm curious, like you talk about John Dodson, and I've seen a couple posts in the past where you've intimated that you'd like to fight somebody like that. Do you see that as being maybe like a potential next option if you get the ideal outcome here, like not overlooking your immediate task per se, but would that be the desired next opponent, I assume?
Yeah, so I think they had something else in mind, and I think it's leading in the direction that I hope it's going to. As long as I beat Albert, I think there's going to be title talks really soon. I think Dodson, they kind of got a little bit of other ideas for him right now, but as long as I'm able to get the title, there's really no other way for him to go after that.
Yeah, and they've talked about doing like a tournament for the title in the past there. I think that was like pre-pandemic, and then that kind of threw the whole tournament out a little bit. And there's a lot of interesting players there in that flyweight division too, like Gian Herrera and Reggie Barnett Jr. is like pseudo in there as well. Like I know he wants to have more like flyweight fights and stuff like that. So a lot of interesting potential opponents, it seems like.
Yeah, so Reggie was actually one that they did bring up to me as a potential candidate for the future. But with Johnny Bedford retiring, I'm not entirely sure if he's going to stay at 135 or if he's going to try and take that drop down to 125. As far as the other guys, yeah, there's a whole bunch of exciting fights down there now. There's J.R. Ridge as well. Chancey, who he just fought. There's a few guys from Wichita. There is quite a few down there that could make for some really competitive fights if they want to get the ball rolling on that.
Yeah, and talking about a guy like Reggie Barnett and his status as a title holder, it seems like it's especially important for you to become the first Canadian BKFC champ. Like, how much of a capstone would that be? Because obviously it's a tremendous like individual accomplishment, but presumably something that would also inspire a lot of fighters from Canada in that sport.
Yeah, no, that's we talk about it all the time. It's like we're not exactly sure like what direction like Ontario for itself is going to go as far as ever allowing it in, but we hope that there's some way to do it. And I think grabbing a title in the sport and really giving it the promotion that it deserves, I think that's going to go a long way for opening things up around here.
Yeah, I guess based on what I know about some of the different athletic commissions in Canada and just the fact that there's been some bare-knuckle boxing there before, I would think that Alberta would probably be the province that would at least do it first. Would that be something that you would still take a measure of pride in, like just any kind of Canadian-oriented fight, like being on a card, or would like the ultimate dream be like having it in Ontario and, you know, the family and friends are able to come out sort of thing?
Yeah, so it's definitely like Ontario and like Toronto. It's definitely like it's nice for ticket sales, for having people out. Any show, any way we can break into Canada with the BKFC banner is is important, is super great. Alberta had done the I think it was Lethbridge. They had done one in 2019 through a different promotion, which went over pretty well, I believe. And I've talked to them, and they're looking at doing something again soon. So I'm sure BKFC has been in talks with Alberta if that's the way that they hope to go.
Yeah, a lot of fun potential for the future, but just in talking about this upcoming fight here, I've been seeing a couple posts where it seems like there's like a little bit of banter going on between you guys. Is there like a little more to this fight than just pure competition? Like, is there like a special, like, oh, it'd be good to, beat this guy up kind of component, or like, what do you think about that?
For me, I'm just having fun. I like it online because it doesn't really get to me at all. Like, there's nothing anybody can really say that gets to me. He likes to talk a lot of shit. I don't know if that's just part of him having fun too, but he really likes to talk to everybody. It's not just me. I'm watching him online mouth off to 50 different people while he's fighting me in 3 weeks. So as far as me, I just kind of roll with it and try to make it as funny as possible for others.
And are you the type to like do a bit of backgrounding on your opponents on a tape study level? And if so, like, what have you seen from your opponent, Albert Inclan, that maybe he does well, like in terms of his stylistic attributes?
I don't normally do a whole lot of study. I find people. I have such an unorthodox style that people really fight me different when they get in there. So I don't take too much away from their tapes. But I have watched Albert's fight in the BKFC. I noticed it, like, his gas tank was really bad. He had heart. He definitely had a chin. He didn't go down. He took a lot of hard shots. I think the biggest thing with this is he has had a year, because he fought a year ago. He has had a year to learn. He has had a year to grow. I definitely expect to have the best version of Albert. I just don't think I don't think he's got enough to pull it off. I've had 17 years of world class experience, and you don't get that in an 8-week camp.
Yeah, and I mean, talking to the, I guess, previous point of like the sport expanding and whatnot, kind of cool that it's like the South Carolina debut for BKFC. Like, just cool to see them get into the different states and just even beyond that, like the global expansion too.
Yeah, it's they're doing a really good job. It's they've had Thailand, they've had the London, UK. They're going back there soon. I know they were, like we've talked about, they were probably trying to get into Alberta or some point around here. It's really going to blow up really fast.
Yeah, for sure. Going to be very interesting to follow along with that development and stuff like that. And something else I was kind of noticing in doing my research, it looks like you're, a very proud dad and stuff like that. Like, how much is your kid aware of, what you do for a living and stuff like that? Like, he seems like kind of on the younger side. Like, I think I saw he just turned 4 based on like an Instagram post. Like, is he like aware comprehensively of what you do, or like how much does he know what dad gets up to professionally?
Yeah, it's funny. Like, up until, like, he doesn't know that I do this probably professionally or anything along those lines. He up until like 6 months ago, he didn't really understand much at all about it. But now I'm finding, like, he'll ask to watch videos. He'll kind of laugh with me and pretend to beat me up and say, "Daddy's boxing." He has a lot of fun with it. He does give me a little bit of banter himself, where I'll say, Daddy's gonna fight in a few weeks, and his one of his friends up at this boxing club, he'll say, no, Daddy's not boxing, Maya's boxing. So he really, he really likes boxing. He just likes to joke around a little bit with me.
I was going to say, does that extend to him, like, trying to check out the fights or anything like that? I mean, just, like, YouTube being so prevalent nowadays and stuff like that, is he, like, sneaking a tablet and trying to peep the fights, or do you try to, like, make it so that that's not the case, or how does that go about, I guess?
Yeah, no, like, I definitely wouldn't let him watch the bare-knuckle yet. He's seen some of my older stuff, like, where I've had gloves on and a little bit of my sparring. Whenever he grabs the tablet, he has absolutely no interest of watching me fight on his own. He's more, he'll grab the tablet, hide in a closet, and start watching either Paw Patrol or Baby Shark.
Yeah, but you mentioned, like, the gloved boxing experience and how, you know, Box Rec kind of belies that, and just being a former, like, provincial amateur boxing champion in Ontario. I'm kind of curious, like, what are some of the biggest, like, amendments you have to make in your training from being in, like, a bare-knuckle fight as compared to how you would go about preparing for gloved boxing? Are there any additions to your camp, or is it mostly the same preparations, you'd say?
Yeah, so we mixed in, like, a lot of the MMA guys, so we're doing a lot of dirty boxing rounds. Like I said, like, we've been up to Redemption a couple times to really get that clinch work and learn some new things. For the first debut, I was really just boxing up until I realized, like when I was throwing shots, he was snapping his hand around my neck, trying to drag me around. So when we came back to that, we really adjusted the way that we were going to fight as far as that way. And even in that fight with Cody for my second fight, see near the end, like when I was landing my body shots, I was grabbing from his neck, moving his head to control him where I wanted his body. So we learned off of that. And then this camp, I had 10 months, and I realized, like, my hands weren't holding up in the fourth and fifth rounds like the way that I wanted them to. So this entire camp has been knuckle conditioning, and I'm really hitting pads, hitting the bag, hitting whatever bare knuckle, to the point where my coach is saying, you would have never been able to do this the last two camps. So it's those are the big changes.
So is it maybe fair to say that, like, the shot selection and comfortability in the clinch positioning will look differently maybe in this third bare knuckle fight as compared to, like, what we saw in your sophomore BKFC fight?
Yeah, this one for sure. That was a big thing with Albert is, of course, like, I think I'm going to outbox him, but Albert is not good in the clinch at all. So a big thing is to be able to box and get on the inside, and then really put a lot of that weight on his neck and make him be in an uncomfortable position he doesn't want to be in.
Yeah, very intriguing fight and a lot of interesting stakes for really the remainder of the year in such an exciting time in the division. So to that point, I appreciate you making some time to talk before this fight here, Devin, but I also want to be mindful of your schedule and everything like that. So is there anything you maybe would want to add kind of as, like, a parting thought as we're wrapping up here, man?
I guess, I just want to thank you again for having me on. Thank BKFC and all my sponsors for their ongoing support. Smith Brothers, my manager, and just really looking forward to having a great fight and putting on another masterclass performance.
Well, it's going to be a great way to kick off the year with this BKFC 35 fight on January 27th, and happy there's, you know, the potential to be even more active this year after this Albert Inclan fight. But yeah, like I said before, very much excited for this one, and even more so since talking to you. So thanks for making the time again, Devin, and you enjoy the rest of your day, and also looking forward to checking out the fight when it goes down as well.
Awesome. Thanks again. I really appreciate it.